Economic experts are tipping a wage rise for Australia's lowest paid workers, with the Fair Work Commission to announce its annual wage review at 10 o'clock this morning, which is just 30 minutes away. The federal government has asked the FWC to ensure wages for low paid workers do not go backwards as inflation soars to 6.8%. Joining us live now is Nationals MP Keith Pitt. Keith, thank you for your time this morning. We know unions are hoping for a 7% rise, business groups are hoping for 4%. What would you like to see today?
Well, I think the danger here is you get into a spiral between inflation and wages. Everyone deserves a pay rise, we all know that, but we now see reports where this could be as high as the highest ones that were around in the early 1990s. And we all know what happened then, the recession we had to have. And if the Federal Treasurer wants to emulate his hero, Paul Keating, and he makes that happen, well, that's bad for the economy and that's bad for everyone that's either looking for work or potentially losing their job. So there's got to be the right balance, and I hope they strike it.
What is the right balance?
Well, that'll be up to those that are setting fiscal and monetary policy. But we have to be incredibly cautious. I mean, if we stick with the facts are that every single dollar that people had in the bank or in their pocket before the Albanese government came into power is now worth much, much less. You've got inflation running at almost 7%. The RBA's got their foot on the brake, increasing interest rates 10 times in a row, trying to pull it back. But then you have decisions in the budget, like a 6 cent increase in the cost of diesel fuel for heavy vehicle transport. That has no other impact than putting up the costs of everything, particularly food and groceries.
For workers on minimum wages, it's around $21 an hour. How can they keep up with cost of living if they don't receive a pay rise that's in line with inflation?
Well, these are the exact challenges. That's why you have these independent bodies, or allegedly independent, that are making those decisions. So we'll see what the decision is at 10 o'clock. But if they don't get the balance right, there is real risk here. Inflation at 7% it's extraordinary. It's a long way outside of target. We have a federal Labor budget with $185 billion in additional expenditure. You've got direct impacts on cost of living. A loaf of bread's gone up between 50 and 70%, but people just can't pay. So you've got to get that under control, and I hope they make the right decision.
Yeah, it's expensive out there. I think everyone can tell you that one. Are we going to see more rate hikes after today's decision?
Oh, look, I think that is most likely. Inflation jumped from 6.3 to 6.8%. Depending on what the wages decision are, that will all get fed in. But what I can guarantee is having another board with members of the ACTU, that's not going to help with fiscal policy, with monetary policy, sorry. And you just need the right people making the right decisions. In the government, under the coalition, we kept this under control. We managed to get the right balance. But right now, it is out of control. Inflation is raging. People can't afford to pay their bills. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their food. And yet, it doesn't seem to matter. Federal Labor come to the dispatch box in question time, and they think it's funny that power price has gone up by 20%. They actually call that a reduction, not an increase.
On a different topic, it's been revealed a number of welfare recipients on income management cards in the areas of Bundaberg and Hervey Bay in Queensland has plummeted to just 22. It's not 22%. The number is only 22 people are using these cards. Why isn't it working?
Well, under the coalition, the Hinkler trial in my area was the biggest trial in the country. Almost 7,000 people at one stage. The costs were under $800 a card. I mean, at the time, Labor was claiming $10,000. If I use their way of doing maths, well, at the moment, it's $10 million a card. They made it voluntary. This is one of the few election promises that Labor has kept. They broke their promises on franking credits and superannuation and interest rates and inflation and almost everything else. But they've kept this promise to get rid of the cashless debit card at a cost of $217 million. And what's changed? Well, the colour of the card, it's now blue. It's exactly the same provider, Indue as a bank. And the outcome is no one is on it. And the outcomes that we were getting under the trial just aren't there anymore.
So what's the solution?
Well, my view has always been the same. The cashless debit card should never have been removed from the trial sites. We've seen the impact, particularly in those Aboriginal type communities in other trial sites. Mine's very different. It only applies to those under 35 on 4 payments, whether that is a parenting payment, single or partnered, New Start or Youth Allowance other. And it had a significant impact. It made a real difference on the ground. But that doesn't matter. Labor is just about winning inner city votes. They don't listen to the local communities who wanted to keep it by the overwhelming majority. It's incredibly strongly supported. It should be rolled out nationally, and that's what Peter Dutton announced in the budget reply speech.